This video on my library floor is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Ha ha! What are we doing on the floor, Cinzia? That's what you're all asking me. Well, we're on the floor because this is kind of my comfort safe space. I like being on the floor. I don't embrace being on the floor enough. And as you can see around me, there's 3 stacks of books, all of which don't have a place in my library. Now these are technically have been sitting around the flat for the past few weeks to my poor partner's chagrin. When my partner's away, these books just scatter themselves everywhere. There were books in the bathroom, there were books in the bedroom, there were books on the sofa, on all the chairs, on the dining room table, in the kitchen. These books have just been everywhere. Basically, I have an idea for something that I want to look into, and I pick up a book and I walk off with it, and then I have another idea and I walk off with this book, and they all end up absolutely everywhere. Now, do these books have a space in the library? No. I have exceeded my capacity in this space, so they're not really going to fit on the shelves. I know that. I am not in denial that I have too many books for the space that we are given. We can build bookshelves above doorways. I'm just saying that's a thing that we can do. We haven't done it, but I'm just planting the seed. We have discussed it quite regularly. But yeah, I have a lot of books. Let's just call it as it is. They're all examples of my curiosity. And, you know, curiosity can be described as the desire to know. Not really necessarily the knowledge of having it. But, you know, when we're younger, curiosity is celebrated. Now it seems to be looked down upon. Allow me to explain. But before I go over these huge towers and show you what they are, I like to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy for you to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place and all on your terms. So the other day I had a real meltdown with my whole angle with my internet. What am I online? Looked at my website and thought, this is where I really want to concentrate a lot of my energy, and it just did not reflect me. It was based on what was popular, what was trending, what looked good. Scrapped it all. I completely changed it. And you know what? It took me 40 minutes to do that. I went from this to this with Squarespace. Squarespace is amazing for online entrepreneurs like myself. I can host workshops or courses on my Squarespace website because it allows for members-only content for my community, you guys, so I can sell access to online courses, blogs or videos or all memberships, and purchases can be anything from a one-time fee to subscription fees, depending on where my company goes. And now I can make smarter business decisions with Squarespace's intuitive built-in analytics tools, which allows me to review my website traffic or learn where to focus my engagement or track my revenue for my bookings or invoices or product sales, all in one place. I don't have to have lots of websites. And also, I run my email campaign from there. I left my old email campaign stuff, set it up all on Squarespace where I can have blogs and more engagement. It's great. I can create a community on my own space where I have control. It's not about algorithms anymore. It's a place where I can create freely without worrying about everything. So if you're interested, check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/lady of the library to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Because, you know, when we're younger, that desire to know more, to know everything, is at its strongest because everything we do as children is guided by a desire to seek new information, to seek new experiences, sensations. And this idea is actually linked directly to philosophy. Curiosity and philosophy are basically one of the same in many regards. Because in metaphysics, you know, Aristotle states that philosophy begins in wonder. And whatever that wonderment is entirely unique to the individual. But wonder and curiosity are sister elements, as it were. But then, as we get older, our desire to be curious becomes second to our desire to appear educated. You know, we want to present ourselves as someone who knows what they're talking about. And as a result, we tend to be less open to presenting our curiosity at the forefront, and instead favour this facade of knowledge and defensiveness of our knowledge and our positions. You know, we are happy to defend what we believe in and what we know about, rather than actually forefronting the idea that we're a bit more curious than that. But obviously, that's natural. You know, part of how we exist, part of how we socialise is what we know. You know, it's how we get jobs, it's how we get promotions and positions at universities or papers accepted at conferences. And it's also how we bond with one another. We bond over what we know, whether that's books we've read or games we've played or films we've seen. We tend to share this knowledge with each other, so therefore forefronting curiosity isn't inspiring in social settings, because what you really want to present is what you know. However, as you can tell from the stacks of books and the many books in this library, I have a problem. You see, my curiosity is actually, I like my curiosity. I think it's healthy, quite frankly. But what I suffer from is extreme mental fatigue. I think a lot of us are suffering from it. It's something that I haven't shied away from over the years of this channel, and it's something I talk about insistently because it's such a sticking point for me. My mental fatigue, I'm going to say bluntly, has ruined my life in many ways. I find it's destroying everything that I care about. Now I exist primarily in this quite alienating sphere, as it were. You know, the things that I want to know about, and even the things that I do know about. Not much out there, but there's some bits that I do know. You know, those things don't coincide with what other people want to know about. And then not knowing what other people want to know about results in my brain falling out of sync with who I am. It's a really weird experience to discuss to people, but I don't feel like I'm behind in life. What I feel is a little bit deeper than that. I feel like I'm behind in my own being, which thankfully has been discussed by other philosophers. So in his book, Existence and Existent, which was written largely during his imprisonment in World War II, Emmanuel Levinas described fatigue as an impossibility of following through. And this inability to go on was more than just a physiological or a psychological impediment. For Levinas, the degree of fatigue was a kind of forsakenness that is felt when one is out of sync with oneself. They're lagging behind their own existence. And this fatigue, this sort of time lag and wariness of being, is how he defined fatigue. It's basically defined as the moment of, I can't. Like, I can't, not even one more time. I just can't. I can't. He writes, quote, "In the humility of the man who toils bent over his work, there is surrender, forsakenness. Despite all its freedom, effort reveals a condemnation. It is fatigue and suffering. Fatigue does not arise in it as an accompanying phenomenon, but effort, as it were, lunges forward out of fatigue and falls back upon it." So he talks about how our indolence, i.e. our aversion to effort, comes from one who is fatigued by the future. But notably, it is the presence of our fatigue that indicates the level of effort one is putting forward, which makes an aversion to fatigue morally questionable to philosophers such as Simone Weil. So we're in a catch-22 where I feel mentally exhausted, but technically that means I'm trying. But the worst part is that I don't feel like I'm trying anymore because I'm so mentally exhausted that I can't try anymore. But then it's meant to be seen as a moral thing to be fatigued, as it were, because it demonstrates that you're going forward. And I think I've gone beyond most ideas of modern exhaustion. You know, people talk extensively about constant notifications or doom scroll, endless decisions, endless news cycles, endless work and study pressure. And I suppose again also there's other discussions that happen, you know, neurodivergence. Those who are neurodivergent tend to feel overstimulated all of the time, and that seems to be amplified in today's world, but it's not, you know, exclusive to them. Tiredness seems to be a daily reality. It feels like the world and people around us demand so much. They demand so much energy, not just mentally but emotionally, and if you don't fit into those categories of whatever that may be, if you don't provide what is asked for you, either it leads to burnout, but then you're also demonized by not feeling that way, for not being enraged, because the world seems to be tailored to making sure people are outraged all the time, and rightly so, but then also we can't handle it. And really, I don't think, whilst, people do talk about endless notifications and social media adding to feelings of fatigue, I don't feel like those play a role in my life at all. I'm not really on any of them. I have them, I don't use them. I don't have notifications turned on my phone. People know that they probably don't hear from me for like 7, 8, 12 days at a time. I vanish for months on end. I'm fatigued entirely by not existing correctly. I feel like the way to exist correctly in today's space is where I fall apart, particularly as someone online, and I'm dependent upon working against an algorithm which no one has any control over now. We've seen how AI has now infiltrated so many elements of this that it's really a fool's errand to try and play the game. But despite all this, my curiosity hasn't vanished. I'm exhausted and trying and failing, but it hasn't vanished. It's almost stronger than hope. When they talk about hope being that last remaining feeling, I mean, obviously that's from Pandora, the myth of Pandora, that was left in the jar. But for me, curiosity is my last. Hope went. Hope is gone. No, it hasn't. I'm maybe being facetious. But curiosity seems to be my core thing. And engaging with that when it doesn't fit has been strange for me. I suppose I'm torn between where my curiosity lies and what I should be doing, what I should be looking into, what will do well, what won't do well. And it's sort of bizarre. I mean, take now, it's coming up to Halloween, the best time of year, and this whole beautiful trolley is full of all my dark history books. Death as the figure himself, we have devils, we have magic books, we have all these things that I am so interested in. I don't do well algorithmically. They failed the past few years and I sort of went away from it. At the same time, all I want to do is this. And I'm so trapped in like where my curiosity lays is not where success lies. And when do I sort of just give up? But then at the same time, I'm mentally fatigued with this fight. It's insanity. It's real insanity that I'm always battling the same thing for years, days, months on end, that I don't have a day off anymore. I'm always working until I go to bed the moment I wake up. It's ridiculous. And it's insanity. But I'm curious as to what I'm doing wrong, when in reality, I think what I should be looking at is how my curiosity is being wronged by the world around me. And I think a lot of us can relate to that in some way. What parts of ourselves are being told that they don't fit in, whether that's in your work schedule or how things are to be. I'm tired. I'm really tired of making my curiosity conform to what works according to some other outly being, or even what the audience likes. I'm sure the audience would like things now and then that would be interesting and tickling, and quite frankly, you know what I wish my dream was? I wish my dream was that I actually just made lots of little videos, not big, long essays, just little tiny videos of all the things that I find interesting, regardless if they're interconnected or not. Halloween's coming up. I want to do little 10-minute videos of something I find interesting that I've read about and see how that goes. So look out for that, because hopefully that should be in the making. Because really, when we can't even focus on the big things in life, at least we have it within our grips small curiosities, and we don't get to celebrate those. We're told off for those. They're not part of the big picture. The things that were like little tiny interests, or what's that got to do with your PhD? What's that got to do with your work? What's that got to do with your future? Why do you care about these little curiosities? We shame it so much. It's a bit like Sunduku. Everyone knows about Sunduku, the Japanese idea of gathering books that you don't read, and piles of unread books. And whilst it's celebrated over in Japan, that degree of curiosity, over here it's really shameful to have unread books. It's evidently a Eastern and Western divide here. And even when Sunduku became discussed over here, became a term that we all learned basically on Tumblr or something like that, even then it was ascribed to people as a bad thing rather than the celebrated idea it was over in Japan. I'm tired of my curiosity being seen as something shameful. I'm tired of being ashamed of it because it doesn't meet algorithmic standards. It doesn't appeal to the masses. it's scatty, it's not on trend, it doesn't fit a vibe. When in reality, all I want to do is talk about things in an interesting way. Things that interest me in an interesting way that I think other people who are very similar to me would find interesting. And just learning these tidbits of information every now and then, just little bite-sized things, and hopefully inspire people to go read about it themselves. That's what seems to be my purpose in life. It doesn't really fit in with anything. But for me, I want curiosity to be my life force again, which it always has been, rather than a productivity tool. But how do I regain curiosity when I'm exhausted? I suppose really the answer is curiosity doesn't need to be this grand thing. It can be tiny little questions that are asked in tired moments, which is what today's video is about. What is curiosity and how can you regain it when you're mentally exhausted? When you still have the life force. It's a bit like when you're excited to do something and you don't do it. That paralysis. It's known as a no-do gap in psychology. People working in the field have identified the habenula as part of the brain that is responsible for this no-do gap. When you know you should do something, or rather, you know you want to do something and you don't do it. And that's how I feel. I don't do it because I know I shouldn't do it. I have so much shame about reading. There has been collected over many commentaries and many comments from people in my real life to people online that I sort of just shamed myself out of doing it. People told me it wasn't really work. All I can tell myself, and any of you who are in a similar boat, is to be curious despite being exhausted. Because being tired teaches us that patience and humility are part of the process, and we won't master anything. And right now it does feel like it's sort of geared up for us not to have the energy to go on. But I choose to go on regardless. You're probably looking at a lot of these books. There's a lot. Obviously, I haven't read them. They're all unread texts that haven't had a space in the library, as it were. So I'm going to have to try and buy some baskets, I think, and stack them up into baskets. But let's start with this one pile. We have 9 Minds, The Inner Lives on the Spectrum by Daniel Temmett. It's about, obviously, 9 lives of the autism spectrum. We have The Intimate Resistance, and this is going to be one of my next reads. It's a philosophy text by a Catalan philosopher, who my book-selling friend told me that their surname, Esquirol, means squirrel, which I think everyone should have the surname Squirrel. Why don't we all have the surname Squirrel? But this felt like a positive, upbeat discussion in the philosophy world, a very rare one, about intimacy. So I really kind of want to look for some upbeat philosophers. A.C. Grayling's also one of my upbeat philosophers. I do adore him, sincerely. And then we have How to Think More Effectively from the School of Life. Again, little tiny bite-sized philosophy text that I have. And this one I have read, I didn't have a place for it. Libraries of the Mind. I did a short on this, very, very good. I got sent this by Princeton University Press. We have the book Against Death by Elias Canetti, which is discussions on death. I think he looks at Goethe, Walter Benjamin, other writers who talk about death and his essay responses to them. And we have Children of Athena, which is about writers in Rome who are responding to ancient Greek writers. This is On Purpose, 10 Lessons on the Meaning of Life by Ben Hutchinson. Can you tell I'm in my existential dread and I need all the help I can get? Fiction book, How I Won the Nobel Prize by Julius Taranto. I actually got sent the proof of this in ebook format. I just cannot read ebooks. I'm sorry, I just can't. I find the experience entirely uncomfortable. We have the Global History of Ignorance by Peter Burke, which again, another philosophy-adjacent text. And non-fiction, How to Fit All of Ancient Greece into an Elevator by Theodore Papakostas. I can never say it correctly, my apologies. Then Are You Mad at Me by Meg Josephson. This was sent as a proof. I've already read it. It was okay. It's about people pleasing. If you're someone who's a big people pleaser, you may find this quite refreshing. For me, I've sort of moved past that realm. It didn't cover the areas that I people please, which is entirely in my career and online spaces. It didn't really cover that. And also it's kind of more neurotypical, which is great for neurotypicals, but for myself it didn't really fit. The Conspiracy Against the Human Race by Thomas Ligotti. I recently got this, so I went down to London to Gower Street. It is Gower Street, Waterstones, isn't it? I heard someone say it differently the other day and I was like, I swear it was Gower Street. But yes, this is another philosophy text. To be fair, I always slot philosophy books on the bookcase. There's enough space there. Then we have The Waste Books by George Christoph Lichtenberg. And this, again, fits into what I was talking about really in this video. I aspire to be like this man. This is kind of he's a mathematician, a philosopher. He kind of collected ideas that he got from literature, philosophy, mathematics, just someone I aspire to have the intelligence of. I don't, but I wish I did. A fiction book that I hadn't heard anything about called Engagement by Gun-Britt Sunderstrom. And yes, I believe it's about a Stockholm student in the 1970s who chooses not to marry, that kind of narrative. Just interesting to see. Then we have a novel that I never heard of before, but again, I got it in Gower Street. It's The Suicide Museum by Ariel Dorfman. Again, knew nothing about it. The title intrigued me, and that's why I picked it up. The Man Who Cried I Am, this is a new release. Everything by Fitzcarraldo editions I get. Really, I don't think there are any books of theirs that I don't own. Like, basically, when they publish, I trust their taste. It's almost like having my own... This publisher is basically my own personal bookseller recommendation, because everything they release, I really enjoy. So, I had to get it. Thinking Fast and Slow. Okay, I have actually read this, and I found this in a charity shop, and I was like, you know what? I didn't get the hype. I thought that basically the whole book was explained within the first chapter, and they just kept repeating itself over and over and over again, which people probably say about my videos, quite frankly. And I was like, really? Why is this so famous? Maybe I didn't get it. Maybe I was just too dumb. So I'm going to reread it again, because I just felt like I got it immediately at the beginning, so I didn't understand what the rest of the book was about. So perhaps I was just being a bit stupid when I read it the first time. I'll try it again. I feel like it didn't really... I think it felt like it said the obvious, but maybe I was just missing the point. So I'm going to give it another go. Then we have Happily Ever After, A Radical New Approach to Living Well by Paul Dolan. I've read some of this, as you can tell, but I'm terrible. I pick up a book, start reading it, forget I'm reading it, and move on. The irony is, I think around 6 months ago I picked up a book called Hyperfocus, and I forgot until I saw it on Goodreads. And then I was like, oh, I forgot I was reading you. Irony. What I'd Rather Not Think About by Posthuma. This would never been something that I picked up. But when we went to Amsterdam, I went into a bookshop and I asked the bookseller, can I have a recommendation from her? And this is the one that she told me to read. I wanted to read, obviously, a local author of some degree. And I was like, can you just inspire it? No, I forgot I had the sticker. It was called The English Bookshop in Amsterdam. And this is the one that she gave me. So I was like, there we go. She didn't give it me. Obviously, I paid for it. Then we have Embers of the Hands, A Hidden History of the Viking Age. I know nothing really about the Vikings. It's something I really wanted to read about, and I just don't. I'm like, I don't have the capacity. This is where I'm just putting less pressure on myself to memorise it all and just enjoy the process of learning. I feel like whenever I'm reading, I'm thinking, oh, how can I make this into content? How can I showcase that I understand this thing in some way? Why can't I just read for fun? That would be really, really nice. And this was sent to me by Princeton University Press recently. It was Killing the Dead, A History of Vampires, which is going to go on my death wall. Basically, death wall. I don't have a wall. It's a stand here. So yeah, you know how I've done one of my favourite videos I've ever done was my vampire video. I like to do more about vampires. We'll see if this text offers any opportunity to explore more realms of it. Then we have The Pleasure of Thinking by Wang Xiaobo. I really hope I said his surname correctly. Xiaobo? Xiaobo. Again, I haven't read many essayists from China, so again I thought, that's something I need to look into. And then obviously Vladimir Nabokov's Think, Write, Speak, which people have recommended to me many times over the years, and I've completely ignored them. And I think I've read his short stories, but I haven't actually read Lolita, and I haven't read his non-fiction. So I think I need to get into his non-fiction and then dare myself to read Lolita. And I feel like this one is pertinent to philosophy, Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind. It's just been really intense the past while, and it's just... I can't. So when I saw this, I was like, that's showed up in my life, and I needed someone to talk to me about this whole experience, because I have no one to talk to about how exhausting this has been. And yeah, that's just one stack. We have 2 more here, but this video's already quite long, so I'm leaving it there. Maybe in another video I can go through the other 2 stacks if you're interested. But thank you so much for watching as always. Thank you to my Patreons. I think I have enough space on this side to fit them there. Sorry if you're over here, but hopefully you're there. And also to my Patreon librarians, my top tier Patreons, thank you. We have so many more. So we have Ellen, thank you for joining. And we have Eat Your Vegetables, Ashley Nicole, Eric Taylor, Cody Martin, Yvonne and Yvonne, Jenny Edevade, Marina, Psycho Teddy, Fritz Anderson, Wee Lauren, Andrea Bazil, and Nicholas Reed. Thank you so much for always being supportive over on Patreon, and I will see you soon for another video. And remember, be happy and healthy, and books save lives, so keep reading.